Sajith, now you could catch up with the pace. You are a musician, you are a good music composer. Do you have any plans for the journey ahead in terms of music?
I'm taking my every day as it comes, because I don't think we are in a phase where we can do too many plannings and then do it. But we can have an intent. So my intention is to create a platform where independent music can grow, where young singers, a lot of talented singers can create their. So I'm now talking to some of the lyricists to write, not for me, but for some other music director or youngster who can do. And the freedom that we can give is, it's not made for a story, it's not made for a movie. It doesn't have commercial implications at this point of time. So you try and do it the way you would love to. I don't know how much of that freedom exists in that movie making field today. In the earlier days, there used to be a lot of, I've heard stories where the music directors could demand how the scene should look. Today I don't know whether that is true. So I think music should exist independent of cinema, and if there could be more and more platforms and channels. I see a lot of activity happening among youngsters. They are putting on their own things. Like what I've done is I've put on most of my songs, but then I worked with Harish, Sivaramakrishnan, I worked with Gayathri, I worked with Jayachandran, which was like a dream come true for me. And then Shri Thampi Sir wrote a song for us to compose.
കാത്തിരിപ്പിന്റെ നൊമ്പരം ചൂടും കാവ്യമെത്ത മനോഹരം വാദമില്ലാതലാലപിക്കും നിൻ നയനമെത്ര മനോഹരം.
So those are that small things which I am trying to indicate, saying that, and some of the youngsters, you're trying to promote them in learning and trying and singing. But it's nothing like a competitive kind of thing. I do not want that to reach that space of competition there. It should be purely on creating new songs, new music.
നിറതിങ്കൾ നിനക്കായുദിച്ചു നിഴലുറങ്ങും വഴി ചിരിച്ചു നറുമണമൊഴുകിയ വേദികളിൽ വീണ്ടും നിന്നെ ഞാൻ വിളിച്ചു നിന്റെ സാമീപ്യം ഞാൻ കൊതിച്ചു.
Some of the ideas that I have is we have just created one. You know, there is a genre called as padam within Carnatic music, which is used for dancing, Mohiniyattam. And Kathakali padam it's a different take on that. It's a different story based kind of. So padams are similar to thumris in Hindustani music. So where it's about mainly the theme is viraha and pranaya and viraha, and the view is missing. He's not come. Whether it's a raja or a zamindar in the case of thumris, and there's a lot of pathos, love, and in some cases even eroticism involved in describing, how one of our best example is Prananathan Enikku Nalgiya Paramananda. That was written by Raman Thampi, and such a classic song. So we want to create some of those genres using modern poetry. So Murali has written a padam for me, which I have composed. We want to do the same thing with a ghazal in Malayalam, which follows all the rules which are supposed to be. Because here most of the songs you come across, if Babuka has composed a song, then it becomes a ghazal. Sometimes the definition is far away from. So why not create something which is? So I am talking to some of these learned friends in Kerala who have written books about ghazals and things like that. So these are the fun part of it. Those processes keep you active on that. Pogayo priya devi dura
Talking about Harish, Harish is someone who has always attempted to improvise on the music. So, what is your stand on Harish's exploration or explorations like that?
In any song, you can have an interpretation of yourself. A lot of people criticize such attempts. I think it's unfair because if you don't innovate, if you don't create on what is already available, the journey doesn't happen. If you were to sing a song exactly the same way it has been played in an LP record, sung by Jayachandran or Dasetan, then just listen to them. Why do you want to listen to it live? Because we are going to copy that. I mean, I've said something this to some of my friends. The most difficult singer to imitate is Kishore Kumar. But if you see maximum singers singing songs would be Kishore Das. I mean, so there is some disconnect between the two. You don't realize why he's using a word or why he's leaving a breath there. It is very, very, very deep when it comes to it. It's very difficult to sing, or you can copy, but you can't interpret So if I were to interpret a song of Kishore Das, it will become very, very different. But he has already done the interpretation. So some of the singers are. So if you look at the creation of a song, like I mean in Harish's case, when we made a song for him, he sang. We gave him all the encouragement and support to improvise then itself. Said, we assume that we have given you this. Now we want you to do this. Why don't you try this? I mean. Some of these things would have happened in the past with singers. Some of the music directors used to be very critical, saying, I don't want any change that I'm doing. I need exactly to be the same way. I don't want anything. I am doing that job. You do your job of singing. But there were some music directors who would have collaborated with singers. So this collaboration could be then, or it could be something which is happening at a later point of time. So my answer to creation or interpretations or changes are, if suppose you say that is not to be touched, then what I would say the most traditional thing is the classical music. Classical music is where you say that you can't sing this swara, you can't do this, you can't go off the tala. And there you will see Tyagaraja's songs have been modified so much in this last centuries. There's a singer who would have interpreted in some fashion, somebody else will have interpreted in some. So if that freedom was there for such great songs, which are far ahead of whatever we are creating today, be it in terms of poetic beauty or in the structure or the music which is, if that is possible for them, then why not for something which is created today or let's say 10 years. And there, I think the only thing is that the respect should be given to the poetry, respect should be given to the, if I were to completely change the song, misspell a word or, and the best part is most of these great singers of the past, like Dasetan and Jayachandran, have absolutely fantastic pronunciation. I mean, the diction they have used is, and their understanding about their the word, why it's used, and such were the great composers of those days, like that is Devarajan Master or Dakshinamurti Swami. They understood the language. I mean, so I just recently heard Johnson Master commenting, saying that music could exist on its own. Sangeetam tanne ava. But our literature has music in it. So that means our poetry has music in it. So we are just taking it out. I mean, that's what it is being done. So we are not doing something different. So I would say if somebody is interpreting in fashion, the right way to do, which is what similar to what was done in Carnatic music as a practice. That if suppose there is a structure, like my guru teaches me 4 nuances for the same line. And the reason for those nuances were introduced is because that Sahitya is understood by the person who's listening to. So if suppose I'm calling Prana Nayaka, you can call that Prana Nayaka in 9 different ways, whatever rasas I want to bring in. And why is it done? There is a sentence which is either coming after or before that, which is the reason why it is done in that fashion. So now if I do it, that Hasya Rasa could be done in two ways. It need not be exactly the way somebody has taught me. So the freedom that is given is stick to that, stick to the bhava, stick to the aesthetic sense of that poetry. Don't change that. And there you have scope for innovation within that frame. So if I have a song on pathos, I can't make it look funny. So I'm going for the extreme. So as long as that is stuck to, and as long as we interpret, generally the respectful way to do is sing the first line the way it was done, bring in your changes on the second line. I mean, that's a practice which has been followed by, I think that should be done. I mean, I would not say it is something, the question whether it is wrong or right is not. I mean, it should be encouraged. I mean, if you don't encourage that, how do you, so if somebody was to, I mean, I have done maybe 30 songs. If somebody was to interpret it, even if it's a bad interpretation, I would love it because someone has attempted to do that. So.
Jayachandran has a huge fan base in Kerala. He's known as Bhava Gayakan. How was the experience working with Jayachandran?
I never knew him before I made my first few songs, and my dream was to make him sing because the composition was rich in bhava. So I had a friend known to my brother called as Mr. Manoharan, who's written about Jayachandran, and he was a connect to Jayachandran. We had the recording done in Trichy. We asked for 4 songs on the same day. He said he can do it, and said don't send it to me earlier. I will listen at that point of time. And that experience was huge. That is where you like one thing which I said, my guru said, don't be bothered about what others think, be honest to yourself and keep practicing so that you get to that point where you are happy with it. And the second thing which I realized with Jayachandran, he is not about his singing at all. He is about what others are singing. He is always in awe of what Mohammad Rafi did or Sushila Ma did or M.R. Sushanathan, Devarajan Master. He has so much of, it's like that what Tyagaraja says, Entaro Mahanabhav. He's always singing that Entaro Mahanabhav. And that man is only in music. I mean, there is nothing other than music in it. So whatever happiness, and the literary part of it, relate to the poetry and things like that. And what I realized after meeting Jayachandran is, practice is important in singing. If he has maintained his voice at this level, it is only practice. It is not a training or anything. And that practice comes out of, for him, even a dialogue is a music. So when he is telling you something, next line he'll give an example of a song, and which he sings. It's not even telling the lines. So if somebody is singing all along in his day, then that practice is much better, which is enjoying and singing, rather than saying that, I need to sit for 1 hour, put my tanpuru and then start singing. So lot of lessons and professionalism, the time at which he comes at his age and saying that we requested, can it be done? A lot of people want us, he's not going to take any nonsense or you have to be on. So we were prepared, and there is so much of love about him growing up as young kids. When my grandmother used to talk about Manjala Mungi Torti or Harshabash. So there's a lot of, and very, very genuine artist and absolutely fantastic person too, and lot to learn.
Thank you so much, Sajith, for the wonderful conversation and the insights you shared amid your busy schedule. Before winding up, may I request for a song from you, please?
I'll sing some of the songs which we are composing now, yet to come out. So one is like I told you about this Padam. So that starts something like this.
Ravine priyataramakiyadandinu radhike ragalone Ravine priyataramakiyadandinu radhike ragalone മാരുതകര വിരുതു വിടർത്തും ബന്ധുരമൊരു പൂവുടൽ പോലെ മാവരതൂ ചില്ലകൾ ദൂരെ നിലാവു കൂടി ചാടി രമിക്കുണ്ടാവിനെ പ്രിയതരമാക്കിയതിനു രാധികെ രാഗലോലേ. അടുത്തത് ഒരു മോഡേൺ മ്യൂസിക് സ്റ്റൈലിൽ ചെയ്ത ഒരു പാട്ടാണ്. നിന്നോടെനിക്കെന്തൊരിഷ്ടം, മെല്ലെ മെല്ലെ വളർന്നതാമിഷ്ടം, തെല്ലൊന്നു പിന്തിരിഞ്ഞെങ്കിൽ നേരിൽ ചൊല്ലാനിരുന്നതാമിഷ്ടം, തെല്ലൊന്നു പിന്തിരിഞ്ഞെങ്കിൽ നേരിൽ ചൊല്ലാനിരുന്നതാമിഷ്ടം, നിന്നോടെനിക്കെന്തൊരിഷ്ടം, മെല്ലെ മെല്ലെ വളർന്നതാമിഷ്ടം.
So hopefully we'll get a younger singer to sing this because it's in tune with ഇടവപ്പാതി പെയ്തിറങ്ങണ്, ഇടവപ്പാതി പെയ്തിറങ്ങണ്, നാവു കണ്ട മാന്തളിർ തുടിച്ചു നിക്കണ്, ഇടവപ്പാതി പെയ്തിറങ്ങണ്, നാവു കണ്ട മാന്തളിർ തുടിച്ചു നിക്കണ്, ചീമ കൊന്നറങ്ങണ്, ചീമ കൊന്ന ഒരാളതിന്റെ കമ്പൊടിച്ച് ചാല് കീറണ്, എടവപ്പാതി പെയ്തിറങ്ങണ്. അങ്ങനെ കുറെ different. So it's all, each one is an experiment, trying to do things differently, but everywhere that melody and bhava being in place. So that's it.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you. Wish you all the best for future ventures.